Number 4 happened to me in grade school, and I was 3rd grade, and I got on the on the um, on the playground. I got swung around by a girl who was a grade above me. She swung me around kind of like one of those Mexican wrestling matches and let me go, and I smashed my face against the asphalt and split my lip open. So how this situation came about is there were times when I was really young that I was, apparently I was a little bit of a bully, but I didn't know that. And I would make fun of other little kids. Not bully as in like physical bullying and hitting or anything like that, but just make fun of them for various features that I thought were funny. Well, this little girl, and again, she was a grade above me. I think she was a little person because I just remember her proportions being off. Like she looked like she could have been in high school, like a high school freshman or something, in retrospect. Yet she was only in 4th grade. And she was, I think she was a little shorter than me, even though I was in 3rd grade. I don't remember exactly, but I just remember, and I don't even remember what I said to her. I was probably making fun of her height or something. I don't remember. On the playground. All I remember is she grabbing onto my hands, and with some kind of supernatural strength that she summoned from the depths of hell, she swung me around. And I just remember my surroundings being a blur, and then being released. And I don't remember when my body was flying or when I hit. I just remember getting up from the ground, blood dripping out of my mouth, and crying, being scared because I saw blood. Somebody got the teacher and walked me to the office. I didn't feel any pain. Again, it just happened, and the body, I don't know what it does. It's just like, the body doesn't respond at light speed. It doesn't respond instantaneously to a lot of things. It takes some time for all these various biochemicals to be released. But I didn't really feel any pain. And even in the coming days, that's the only time when I really felt pain, is when my lip was healing up for, I don't know, about a week maybe. It kind of hurt, and if I smiled too much, it would split open again, and that kind of hurt. But given how much blood there was and how widely my lip busted open, there wasn't really that much pain. So that was number 4. This is number 3. And this is number 3 is fit for a body horror movie. So the experience that falls at number 3 for an experience where I experienced pain that stands out is when I decided to do some self-surgery in the bathroom to remove some plantar warts on my feet. Yes. Apparently, Gen X, when they're in their early 20s, they just kind of spontaneously get a degree in surgery, and then we just started practicing surgery on ourselves in the bathroom. Whoa. How this came about was I had 2 major nasty ass plantar warts on one of my feet, and it was like they were clusters. If you know about plantar warts, are like broccoli shaped. It's so nasty. Anyways, I had 2 clusters in my feet, and I was so thoroughly disgusted. And I don't know what possessed me to use this technique. I remember my mom telling me that when she had to have warts removed when she was a kid from her fingers, the doctor used heat, because she would describe it as him burning them off. So I'm thinking to myself, heat, plantar warts, what could I use to burn these bad boys off? Well, I was a graduate from an electronics tech school, and I had a soldering iron. Yes, you heard that. I got out my trusty soldering iron. You know, I first used a pumice stone, or I can't remember what exactly, but I sanded off all the dead skin. I should probably say this, don't do this at home. Do not do this at home ever. This is just my experience, and I do not recommend it. There are much easier, much better ways these days to remove plantar warts. This is me being a crazy Gen X person, crazy Gen X kid. I was in my mid-20s again, somewhere in my 20s. I think my early 20s. I sanded off the rough areas on those two plantar wart clusters, and I pressed the tip of that soldering iron onto each one, and I pressed as hard as I could. And yes, there was pain. There was a lot of pain, and I just kept holding it in place until I could not stand the pain anymore. And then I removed the soldering iron. I thoroughly burned the warts, and I did a whole shit ton of damage to the surrounding tissue. It was that moment that I knew I effed up. I showed my mother, who had been a nurse, who had a good career in nursing, and when she first saw my feet, and now this is like, I don't know how many days after this was, because I don't think it was right away, because when I first did this, it was just like the initial damage, and there was just, you know, there was all that thick dead skin on the bottom of your toe, on the bottom of your feet, and that was still there. And I think in the coming days it just kind of like fell off, and there was just these two big gaping burned wounds on the bottom of my feet. And I showed my mother, because at this point I'm thinking, okay, this might be a problem. And her initial reaction when she saw them was she started to dry heave. She started to dry heave, and then after she got control of herself and I told her what happened, she gave me all of the instructions on how to care for this wound. This two gaping wounds in my feet. I don't know why I'm laughing so much. I find it hilarious now. See, this just is another hallmark of Gen X. When we go through terrible experiences, we look back at it and laugh. So my mother said, okay, here's what you do. You have to get this, and this. I got like some saline solution, the kind that's in a can that you spray for like contacts. I got the special gel. I don't remember what it was called. And I would clean it every day, like twice a day, and I would stuff each wound with this gel, and I would wrap it up with like gauze and stuff. And afterward, you know, I was limping for a while on that foot because it hurt. And so I want to say about like 3 weeks I did that, and after a while it was just fine. I had scarring, and you know what? That did not completely even remove the warts. Nope. After all that, I realized it did not completely remove the warts. They grew back. So I had to try some different method, which did work. So that would be, let's see, 6, 5, 4, 3. That is only the number. There's only the number 3 of 6 experience that produced pain. And that would be like, oh hi dear, man, they're everywhere tonight. You just looking at us right there. Whoa. Anyways, that was a lot of pain during that experience, as well as the healing during the healing phase afterwards.